Now, my mind thinks in images. This is a picture a young man gave to me to show how he has movies inside his head. That's how I think. The HBO movies showed that very, very clearly. And I think completely in pictures. That's the way my mind works. And when I design kennel equipment, I can actually test run it in my head. I thought everybody could test run equipment in their head. I didn't know my thinking was different. And there's the system that they built from scratch for the movie. The movie did a great job of showing all of my jobs absolutely right. You know, they built from scratch all the things that I designed. I built the optical illusion room. I built the gate you could open from the car, squeezing machine, all of these things they had built. And there are my drawings. Another thing I learned, I had to sell my work and not myself. You know, this is why I'm putting so much emphasis on developing skills. You know, they look at my drawings and they go, oh, you drew that? And I like that job because I like to fantasize that someday in the future, way up north in Canada, where that's located, the archaeologists are going to dig it up and wonder what it was for. Now, how do you form a concept when you're thinking in all these specific pictures? How do you form a concept? Well, you form a concept by sorting specific examples into boxes. It's what's called bottom-up thinking. All concepts are made out of specific examples, and those specific examples are pictures. Like I had a parent say to me, well, how do I teach my kid the concept of privacy? You've got to teach it, and just as you're going around living when there's teachable moments. Leaves the door to the restroom open, you tell them you have to shut the door because it's private. You know, you don't get undressed in public because there's certain things you only do in private. It's got to be done all by specific examples. Now I realized my thinking was different when I asked people about church steeples. And I was shocked to find out that most people got this kind of generalized generic image of a church steeple. Well, what's been learned now in brain science is this is coming out of the association cortex. I see only specific ones, and they flash up just like this, just like it showed in the movie. A whole bunch of specific ones, and then I put them in the steeple file folder. That's how my mind works. Oh, there's another one there. And I used to joke around that I had a gigantic internet connection in my head for thinking in pictures. And it turns out that I got a great big gigantic myelinated cable that goes all the way back into the visual cortex. And it's a lot bigger than what the controller's got. And there's one on the right-hand side that's really, really gigantic. And then some other research that was done on me, they found the graphics card, and that was 3 times bigger. But another thing they found is that my fear center, the amygdala, was enlarged. You know, high anxiety. The movie showed the high anxiety really well. That today is controlled with antidepressant medication. And there's way too many powerful drugs given out to too many kids like candy. I am absolutely horrified. You know, there are some older kids where a little tiny dab of Prozac might be all they need to stop the anxiety. Prozac works really, really well for anxiety. But you got to make sure you don't give too much. People on the spectrum often only need 1/2 to 1/4 the starter dose. Because if you give too much of an antidepressant, you're going to get agitation and insomnia. And that's going to be a really big problem. You know, the doctors oftentimes are raising doses when they should be cutting them. Now, in my book, Thinking in Pictures, I have a whole chapter just on medication. And one of the things I'm very concerned about is they're putting kids on antipsychotic drugs for ADHD. That's ridiculous. Drugs like Seroquel and Abilify. They're still patented right now, so the drug companies are really pushing them. Those drugs have horrendous side effects. Weight gain, diabetes, tardive dyskinesia, permanent nerve damage. You don't want to end up having that, that's for sure. You know, now there's some situations where you might need those medications, but you shouldn't be giving them out to 8-year-olds because they're a little too hyper or they fidget. Let's try exercise first. I find that a lot of exercise helps me sleep. I do 100 sit-ups every night, and it really, really helps. Let's do exercise. Let's get a whole ton of sugar out of the diet. These are some of the things that we should be doing. I talked to these parents of this 9-year-old who was a bit fidgety in class. Turns out he's having Pop-Tarts for breakfast, and he's got no exercise. So by 10 o'clock in the morning, he's hypoglycemic. Why don't you have some eggs and an apple for breakfast? You know, let's have something a little more substantial for breakfast, and then you're not going to have a problem. Now, this is a really important slide. We've got to develop the ability where they're good. The thing about kids on the spectrum, kids with ADHD, kids with dyslexia, kids with tons of lots of different labels, is the skills are going to be uneven. Good at one thing, bad at something else. I'm a photorealistic visual thinker. I think totally in pictures. Couldn't do algebra at all. Never got a chance to try geometry or trig. And there are kids that can't do algebra, but they can do geometry and trig, and they should be allowed to do geometry and trig. And I am that's my kind of mind. The second type is the pattern thinker. This is the mathematics mind, the music mind. This is the kid that when he's in 4th grade, he needs to be doing high school math, but he may need special ed reading. Tend to be bad at reading. You know, these are the guys that when they grow up, they can be the computer programmers, they can be chemists, they can be engineers. Where the visual thinkers like me, they're going to be graphic designers, artists, computer animators, do advertising, art, anything to do with art. Photography, they'd be really good photographers. You know, things that use the visual skills. Really good at designing equipment. See, when you design a piece of equipment, the industrial designer, or the more artist kind of person, makes up the idea, and the engineers have to sort of figure out some of the mechanical details. You actually need the two kinds of minds to work together. And one of the things that worries me today is our school system is getting so verbal now. You know, you take out all the hands-on classes, what's going to happen to these kids? I mean, right now it's appalling the amount of boys that are not going to college. And then another kind of mind, you know, is a verbal thinker. Often not good at drawing. Some people tend to be more auditory thinkers. People learn in different ways. So how did I get through college? I can thank the new math craze of the late 60s. Well, we didn't do algebra, thank goodness. We did finite math. It had statistics, probability, and matrices. And some gambling, a lot of stuff with casino gambling stuff. We had to figure out probabilities, and I was able to do that. I want to give you a glimpse into the pattern mind. I think in total photorealistic pictures, but the pattern thinker thinks in patterns. And this praying mantis is made out of a single sheet of folded paper. It's not scotch taped, and it's not cut. And what you see in the background, that's the folding pattern. Just want to give you a glimpse. There's different kinds of minds in the world that are good at doing different kinds of things. So how did I understand abstract things? I had to learn the Lord's Prayer. I had no idea what it meant. Except for the power and the glory. Because the power and the glory was a rainbow with an electric tower at the base of it. This is a really important slide. All my thinking uses specific examples to create concepts. The normal human mind is top down. Makes the hypothesis or the theory first. I think bottom up. All concepts are learned by specific examples. Okay, examples of mean behavior. Okay, bullying and teasing, like when kids called me tape recorder and stuff like that. I think this comedian they had on the Golden Globes that he said really mean things about, made mean statements about old people and things like that. It's just mean. There's kind of a meanness that's going on in society today that I hate. Like these reality shows and things like that. I mean, what happened to people cooperating? But it has to be specific examples. I think mean, okay, I'm also saying a bullet is going after somebody right now too. You know, he can go in the mean file. But in order to have the concept of mean, it goes back to a whole lot of specific examples.